Alrighty, folks, it is 10:45 here on the East Coast. Welcome to a new episode of Twitchline. Back again after a little bit of an extended break. I had things I needed to do for work, so unfortunately, I was not able to do anything last week. So there was no Sunday segment and Wednesday normal cast because I was out on the West Coast. But as always, joining me is my best friend and co-host. It is Mr. Acorn. How you doing, buddy?
Doing well. Good evening to you. I'm glad you are back on the East Coast where you belong.
I don't know if it's where I belong because, man, I incorporated myself on that West Coast time relatively well. Woke up at 7 o'clock in the morning, went to sleep at 11 o'clock, reasonable hours. It was actually pretty cool. When you translate that to East Coast time, that was more like waking up at 10 a.m. and going to bed at 2 in the morning, which is, sort of normal.
It's okay. It's a change, but then you also had to deal with the time, daylight savings time came up at the same time. So things are just even more mixed up.
And I actually didn't know that it was daylight savings times weekend. I thought I was going to be late for a lunch appointment, and then I realized I was an hour early. So it was very interesting. So I was like, oh no, I'm wrong. Oh well. But we'll get into more of that later on. Welcome to Twitchline, folks. As always, let's get our socials out of the way. You can contact us here at twitchlinelove@gmail.com if you have any questions, concerns, articles, anything you want us to feature on the show. We check our email on a constant basis, so please drop us a line and let us know if there's anything on your mind. You can also tweet us at Twitchline here on Twitter. Quick thoughts, anything that you want to link to us, that's the best place to do it. We do pay attention to the Twitter, and it is one of the easiest ways to communicate. Also, you can watch us on YouTube. We co-stream onto YouTube at the same time, so we are streaming onto YouTube and Twitch at the same time. You can also hit the subscribe button. All you got to do is search on YouTube Twitchline Love, and if you type in that into the search bar on YouTube, you should find our channel there. Drop a subscribe to us, and you can check out all of our older shows there on YouTube. If you have any topics you want to go back and listen to, you can also take us on the go. We're available on SoundCloud. Yes, you can take us on your phone, mobile device, iPad, any tablet or anything you want that can play SoundCloud. You just type in Twitchline into SoundCloud. We'll be there. You can listen to all of our most recent shows on SoundCloud on the go. But as always, welcome to Twitchline, folks. It is a Wednesday evening, and we've got some great topics for our show today. I know we've been away for a week just because of an abnormal schedule, but I'm excited to delve into Reddit again, Tim, and basically start reading some of the topics here. And we're doing something a little different with topic 2, which is not necessarily a post, but it's a research article, right?
Yeah, that's right. It's research. It's actually straight out of a journal, scientific journal. But what really jumped out at me was the graph, and we're going to go into that once we get there. But I've been saving up some tasty tidbits from Reddit while you're gone, and so this will just be a couple of them. But we're going to start off this evening with something from r/dating. It's one of our most fruitful subreddits that we get a lot of our content from. And the topic for the first one tonight is: Does anyone else feel Black Mirror-esque that our dating lives are dictated by some unknown algorithm developed by corporations? Sounds a little bit like conspiracy theory-like, but let's see what he says. Yeah. Our user is Scarberia123, and he or she says, most of these dating apps are owned by one company, and their algorithm is being kept secret to the public. We have no idea how the apps decide to show us the profiles that we see and how we are rated by the apps. We are essentially told by these apps who we see and who we match with. Why are we so complacent to a corporation dictating such an important part of our lives? I think there should be some transparency on exactly how the apps work. So, uh, have you seen Black Mirror? Have you watched any of those?
Black Mirror is not one of the shows I watch on a regular basis, but from what I understand, it is interesting stories that are sort of mind bendy. I mean, like lots of science fiction, a little bit of horror, stuff like that. That's the most that I know about it, though.
Yeah, it's a bit Twilight Zone, Alfred Hitchcock. It's kind of like technology and human psychology and where it can all go wrong. And there were two episodes in particular that seemed to match with the this comment here, this Reddit post.
Mm-hmm.
And the first one was called Nosedive. It's from season 3. It's the first episode, and it's basically about basically if every human had a constant rating, and every interaction you made would either raise that rating or lower that rating, and what you can do in the world is based on your rating, like what kind of neighborhood you live in, what kind of job you can get. All these things are based on that, and so it mimics real life in a way, but not exactly. But if you look over in China and the way that they're doing their, I forget what the system is over there, but they're basically, good behavior means you're allowed to have a normal life. But if you slip too far down the scale, suddenly you're not allowed to fly and you're not allowed to do certain things inside the country or even
Mm-hmm.
leave the country. So a little bit of that there. And then the second one was called Hang the DJ, and that's season 4, episode 4. And this is a supercomputing system that matches people, and they put you together for a specific amount of time, and you're just supposed to be together. Whoever you are, you're supposed to start a relationship. And through this system, you're supposed to be matched with your perfect person. So, it gets a little dark and a little weird, but that's kind of what we're looking at here. So, anything off the top of your head? What is your response to this whole idea that we are just subject to a dating algorithm that we have no control over and no understanding of if we use online dating?
It seems very, I don't know what I want to say, sort of tinfoil hattish. Uh, People are always suspicious over things that they don't know. It's how conspiracy theories start. And this person, Scarberio123, is saying that it's like, oh, we should know how they match us up. It would be, it's very, very important that I need to know. It's like, why do you need to know? Um, I'm not even sure if, knowing would affect the way that this person would end up meeting other people. You know what I'm saying? It to me, it's like all you would know is how to game the system if you knew how the algorithm worked. So, for example, if the algorithm would match you up with people specifically because it's matching interests, or for example, so if you have more interests that you list in your profile, you will actually get more matches as opposed to not listing any interests at all. And, minor stuff like that. That's just like top level stuff. Uh, you could actually game to the system to the point where you could match with almost everybody else in the platform if you knew exactly what to put in specific sections, and then you would just end up matching everyone. But how helpful would that be? I just think it's one of those things in which Scarberia might be looking at it going, it's not me. It's definitely the system that's messing up. And it's this system that I don't know the algorithm to that's causing me to not see what's going on with my dating profile. And I don't know. The tinfoil hat conspiracy theory thing is what I would fall to when reading this, because the person seems a little angry that they don't know, and I don't understand what would it matter.
Yeah, it's true. I do get the sense that he feels like if he knew how everything was weighted, that he could do better. Like, he's definitely coming across as someone who's jaded by the system as it is in this place, and that that if he just had if he just had some more knowledge, he could fix it right up. And then, like, it makes you wonder, like, would knowing actually make a difference, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, would he just try to game the system so that he appeared to be better than he actually is, or to put himself at like a higher place in the line to get more attention from his potential partners? And then I asked myself, well, is there a benefit to not having the public know, like for the online dating app companies? What are they getting out of keeping these algorithms secret? And what would transparency actually do to change the process? Like, it could be for your own good that you don't know exactly how they're weighting things, because then it could mess up the whole process, right? You
Mm-hmm.
don't know in the dating world every single little detail about what the other person across the room from you is looking for in a relationship, and that is not necessarily a problem, and it hasn't been in history. Now, through online dating, we have menus to choose from. You're not just picking the initial, oh, that person's attractive, I'll go talk to them and see what's up. Now you're like, they're attractive, I know where they live, I know what job they do, I know how many brothers and sisters, I know everything about
Mm-hmm.
them. And that extra information, is it really helping you? Are people happier in their selections right now? Doesn't seem to be the case.
Well, the thing about it is it's like you have made this analogy to me before when you came back from overseas. It's like a modern grocery store. There there are so many choices for cereal, for example, that it then becomes so overwhelming that you don't end up getting any of them. Uh, it, Online dating is almost like that in the sense that if you're just given everybody, if you know how to game the system, you're given everybody. Who are you supposed to choose? That's not the whole point of this. I almost even equate it to almost a uh, in a drug study. If you know you're going in to take a drug that is supposed to, let's say, cure your erectile dysfunction, and you know this for a fact, and you go in, you take the drug, and the drug isn't actually the drug, but let's say it's a placebo, and you actually, it solves your issue with regards to it. Well, what actually sort of did it? Was it the fact that you knew you were taking a drug that was going to do it, or was it just a mental thing? And to me, this is the same thing. I mean, it's like I think he feels like if he knew the system, he would then be successful because he would then know how he would break it down. Sort of like how a racing car driver knows how his car would be like if he knows every single little part of it and knows what to fix. It doesn't work like that in the dating world. I think if you are given too many options and too many choices, you end up stunting yourself and not actually getting what you want. And sometimes not knowing the process and not knowing is actually better off for people in the long run. The internet has given the people limitless knowledge about anything, and the internet now composts of endless amounts of conspiracy theories and porn. That's what you do with like with the all of the world's knowledge at your fingertips. I mean, like that's what ends up being the problem is like you give too much to everyone and then like crap comes back. I think honestly, like it is good for these companies to just not tell you and say, hey, look, trust our system because we're trying to match you up, whether in our own way, to these women. And if it doesn't work for you, platforms are different. You can go to a different platform. It's like eHarmony is not Tinder, is not, dating.com, is not Plenty of Fish. It's not all of this stuff. So it's almost as if if one doesn't work for you, you have that plethora of choice that you can say, "All right, I'm going to try another platform and see if that works for me."
You could even pull the plug and go outside and meet someone face to face and not have to deal with any of this stuff,
That's exactly right.
and just
Hmm.
deal with the problems people used to deal with. So, you are as much subjected to this as you are able to walk away from it. It's not, no one's forcing you to use online dating. Our next topic tonight might kind of counter that idea, but we'll get to that.
Hmm.
I thought also for this guy or girl, if these apps only ever have the information that you provide them with, then you can kind of break the code, just considering what data they could possibly pulling from you and your profile, and then there you go, you have that. Like,
Hmm.
they don't know anything about you beyond what you put there. So I mean, and then how often you sign in, how long you spend on various profiles and pages and things like they can draw that kind of data. But when you put in your age range, you put in the stuff, you're already feeding them information. So it's not like the algorithm is completely magically unknown to you. You're feeding it, you're making it work. So just consider those things as well.
Oh no, you're
But
absolutely right.
yeah, but the question he asks, why are we so complacent with a corporation dictating such an important part of our lives? Like, I don't know if we should tell him, like, sorry, buddy, this is your whole life. All day long, you are bombarded with advertising and sociocultural influence telling you what you should be doing with yourself, what you should buy, what your dream should be, and this is not any different. And you signed up for this. No one forced you to make an account. So again, you can always just take a step backwards and go back to the lo-fi real world and get messy with that.
Well, have you noticed that like a lot of people have become sort of anti? Oh my God, this company's going to be running my life if I do it. This is wrong. Yet they participate in whatever it is that the company is selling or dictating. I mean, it's whining is what it is. It's like people and companies have been doing this forever, and I don't understand. Like, you're whining to the group here, saying it's like, I can't believe they have all this power. It's like, well, yeah, that's what comes with it. Their algorithm is secret because it is corporate trade secrets. They're allowed to, and I would assume would want to keep it secret, because if somebody was able to then just copy it and then put it on their website and say, hey, look, I do the same thing that whatever dating app does, but I do it for free. It's like, well, then you've just ruined an entire business, because they developed their algorithm based on what they feel like was important with regards to meeting people. So I don't know. I mean, like, to me, this is just, in a way, somebody just yelling at the world, using the scope of, oh, this company is doing things, these companies are doing things very, very secretive, and we should be yelling at the top of our lungs as to, like, this isn't fair. It's like, what
Yeah.
part of life
So
is not, it is fair with regards to
right.
any of this stuff? Yeah.
Yeah, and Reddit has those tags you could put on your post to say this is a rant, but I feel like they need a new tag, and I feel like that tag should be whining,
Hmm.
because there are a lot of people out here, and, like, we're here giving advice, but at the same time, we want what is best for our listeners, and that you just being upset about the state of the world and not necessarily uh, trying to find a way through it, but just being upset about it doesn't necessarily help you. So if I'm saying to this person, what's up? I think people are too reliant on dating apps to solve their problems in dating. I think that partially is what this person's complaining about. Like, hey, the algorithm is not working for me, and why isn't it working for me? Why isn't it making my dating process easier? So, people want that easy fix, and they want to get rid of all the icky parts and just have their perfect match delivered to them. And we're not there with technology yet.
Mm-mm.
And it might be a weird world and a scary world if it were like that. Part of this process makes you grow. Part of, like, going out and meeting people, connecting to them, having bad relationships, learning from that, and then seeking out a better one. This is all part of a process. So, I think people just don't want to get dirty, and maybe that's why everyone's such a snowflake these days. But
Well,
and another thing. Go ahead.
no, I was just going to say that with the increase in technology, uh, Amazon delivering 1 day groceries, and you basically being able to order a car on the internet to come get you on your phone in 5 minutes, being subjected to constant immediate gratification will then force you into thinking that everything is necessarily can be fulfilled immediately. and that is not the case. The internet has made lives so much easier, so that it is the whole point is to free up your time so that you can go out and do things that you either enjoy or need time to experience. But it doesn't work in dating in that way. And
It doesn't work in any part of life.
yeah, and
But they did psychological. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, I'm just
I'll go
saying
back.
it's like, that whole like, why can't I find a person now? I need to go out. It's unrealistic. And I think a lot of people suffer from that because of the way they live their lives, because they can get everything now, and yet there's one part of their life that they cannot get immediately, and it frustrates the crap out of them.
Well, so what I was going to say is, there have been psychological studies that have been done that show that, and this is not just in psychology. This is studies of efficiency and human efficiency, machine efficiency, where all of the progress that we've made with technology, while it does seem to us and we feel like it's making our lives move faster and be more efficient, we don't actually get things done any faster in the long term. So we spend the same amount of time cleaning as we did 100 years ago, even though we have all these tools and things to make everything go faster, because we've elevated our lives. We have more stuff that needs to be cleaned in a certain way. Like, we keep moving with the technology, so our lives are not easier and faster because of technology. It's about the same.
Hmm.
Maybe I'll go dig that up, that article up somewhere, and we can talk about it later. But it definitely applies to this situation.
Yeah.
People want that, the quick, easy. You know, I just want to skip all the bad part and be with that person. But what I would say, and before we move on to our next topic here, this might make people a little bit angry, but how well would any of us take it if there were an algorithm that could precisely match our true dating value, our true romantic love, life partnership value? Give us a number, whatever that is, as if it could be measured. But let's say that it could by the computer. How happy would you be if you were then paired up with someone that you thought was way below you? It'd be kind of a slap in the face, like, oh man, I didn't realize I was not bringing that much to the table. And people would probably freak out and never use that algorithm again. And sometimes people don't want the truth.
Well, there is a when we were talking about online dating profiles and websites of what you could do. Check out one of our Sunday Focus segments when we talk about the differences in online dating sites. Do you remember the one site that you had to qualify for? The elite dating site, the one
Right.
where you had to have made a certain amount of money, you have to have a certain amount of social stature, so forth and so forth and so forth. And you had to, quote, qualify in order to actually even visit this site. That's exactly what that is. I mean,
It's
people,
part, but they still don't have the technology to genuinely
they don't.
measure someone. Like, you could have a complete douchebag that just checks off certain, things on that list to qualify.
I don't think.
So,
I think to even like be mentally to even try and think that that is a good website, you have to be a certain level of douchebag, honestly. But that's
right,
just a
yeah,
personal opinion.
richdouchesmeet.com.
Yeah, that's a personal opinion. I mean, like, but let's say I was given a rank of 70. The thing about it is like, let's say you are given a rank, like as you were saying, it's like, you're an 80, I'm a 70. Your wife is an 82. It's okay to be like plus or minus 5 points. But then all of a sudden, if you date somebody who, let's say I'm a 70, and I date somebody who is a 90, uh, does that mean that one, I am ruining another 90's available dating pool? Or is the person who I'm dating who's a 90 like going outside, going low, and are they just because are they fishing for low level people so that they can lord over them and be superior to them because their score is ranked higher than the other? I mean, like, when you start ranking people, especially with numbers or numeric value or even some sort of, quote, caste system. Like the caste system in India has gone on for thousands of years, for example. And when you see what happened in that historically, if you're interested knowing, understanding the caste system in India, you might want to read up on that and what that means to people and the lives that has have been taken because of it. You understand that ranking people, not a good idea. And Chinese are going through it now with their social credit score.
That's
Uh,
what it is.
yeah, it's with their social credit score ranking people. They're not letting the people know. I think the Chinese government know what your social credit rating is, but I don't think personally you know exactly what it is.
There are little kiosks at certain places that nobody really knows where that supposedly offer it, but nobody that I know over there has any concept of it.
Mm-hmm.
They just know I don't want to be lower.
Yeah. So the thing about it is eventually, what will end up happening is that people will get their social credit scores published somewhere, and then all hell will break loose. I guarantee it, because 50s don't want to hang out with 70s, or 70s don't want to hang out with 50s, and 50s want to hang out with 70s, but 70s will shun them, and things like that. And then it won't even be about gender, race, good looks at that point. It'll just be, all right, people with a social credit score that can actually go forward in life will want to associate with other people with good social credit scores because they don't want to get them dragged down. So
Yeah.
therefore, yeah, and stuff like that.
People, you don't want this. You
Yeah.
just don't want this, okay? You don't want it in your dating. You don't want it in your job. You don't want to have like a job score. You have your credit score. That pretty much sucks. Nobody really loves it unless they have a very high one. So, no, you don't want this, bruh.
Yeah.
Uh, let's skip along here. We went a little bit long on that one, but this next one should be titillating
Yeah.
to our listeners. Uh, do you want to talk it out, or I mean,
Yeah.
there's not a lot to it, but
Yeah,
go ahead.
so I'll talk about this. This is more interesting because this is actually a little different. This is actually based on a Stanford study that basically the title of this is Where Couples Meet, and there's a study that it links to, which then I can show you here right here, where it breaks down. Just to sum up, the name of the study is "Disintermediating Your Friends: How Online Dating in the United States Displaces Other Ways of Meeting." Basically, it's saying that like online dating is replacing how people meet each other and where people go to meet. And the crux of this is a chart that was linked along with this article from Stanford University, and I'm going to put it up right here so that you can see what is going on. So in this chart, you'll see two axes. Is percentage of who meet this way is on the x-axis, and on the y-axis is year. So goes from 1940 all the way to 2020. And currently we're in 2019, so therefore that's pretty much the end of the chart. So what you see here is a range of how people meet by year. And you see that meeting through friends is by far, from even 1940 all the way down to 2020, almost to 2010, was the number one way on how you would meet people. If you had friends, you would meet people through meeting friends. And then there's a whole bunch of other criterias. The one that you want to pay attention to is the red one, the red triangle chart, because that is meeting online. And the invention of the internet, I think, though originally in actually the mid 70s, but online, quote, dating, or back then they called it computer dating, didn't really actually take off until the early 90s. As you can see, that less than 2% of people met that way until about the mid 90s, when then all of a sudden you see it skyrocket like it's going to the moon. And it levels off there between 2000 and 2010, and then just continues skywards. And part of that is because of your phone and the apps that are associated with it. Part of that is the stigma that people had when it came to online dating, especially in the early 2000s. Like, you were looked on as a pariah and someone who couldn't actually talk to somebody if you met somebody online. And now, if you look at this chart, it is by far the number one way that people meet. And it doesn't even matter what app it is, because there were even earlier stigmas associated to certain apps. eHarmony, quote, was the marriage app. Uh, Match.com was, quote, the dating app. And Tinder was all about hookups. Now, people meet on Tinder and end up getting married. We have friends that met on Tinder and ended up getting married. So there's no longer that crazy stigma with regards to what app you even use. So as it's normalized, you see how everything else just goes down. The only one that I think is funny is the meet in a bar or restaurant, as that has gone up no matter what, as the years have gone by. And I find that it's also the number one way that people hate meeting people was in bars, or through some sort of social drinking environment, which people all hate. But everything else going down. Meeting in church, which was prominent in the early ages, now down. Neighbors. People don't talk to their neighbors anymore. If you live in a neighborhood or you have a house, you understand that now. When I was growing up, I talked to my neighbors all the time. I knew them. I still know them. Mr. Sillins, my neighbor next door, is a wonderful man. His wife is a wonderful woman, and I've known them for 30 plus years. Yet the people to my other side, I have no idea. I have no idea who they are at all, and they've made no effort to say hi to me. I have made no effort to talk to them. It's just how it is. And then all the other charts. But yeah, interesting generalization here with regards to what we've been saying on our show about how old online dating is very, very prominent. This just chart just sort of shows that it is beyond prominent at this point. It's number one.
Yeah, I think that there are also, and like there are a lot of them that were never really too popular that sort of have just become less popular.
Mm-hmm.
But the two greatest ones that really stand out to me are the meeting through friends. That's taken a drop, almost 10% point drop, which means people are not necessarily relying on friends to connect them anymore. And then the one that had the steepest drop out of almost everything, except for family, and this is just as important, between family and then primary and secondary school. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe back in the 40s and 50s and stuff like that, maybe not as many people were going to college, and so they didn't meet in college. The people they made the strongest connections to were in primary school and secondary school, and a lot of them ended up getting jobs in the same town and staying there in the same place. So they had these sort of networks that maintain themselves from that. Now people move around all the time. You go away for college, you have to restart and reset and make new friends and that. So the people you rely on to connect you to the world around you and to add, to join in their networks and their sets are different,
Yeah.
and that's shown there. Um, when I when I first, every time I see something that is described with graphics, statistics, put in front of me as data as it relates to anything science, all the way down to the dating stuff, I go and I look critically at, you know, was there a purpose for this put out there? Who did the research? Where was it published? What year? What's the sample size of people involved? All that kind of stuff. That's kind of, comes from the background of, um, being in kind of a research-based program for my MA in psychology and undergrad.
Mm-hmm.
But it's important, and I think people reading and taking in information from the internet and seeing these numbers, they need to be able to do the same thing, because there's so much crap thrust into your face. You need to know the difference between Cosmo putting some random statistic out in front of you and something like this, which is from a legitimate, journal, scientific journal. But still, even so, this is a scientific journal, the sample size is still only 2,500 couples.
Yes.
So that says something, but it also, you can't generalize this to all populations, all cultures, everything else. And it was done in 2017, so it's pretty recent. But there are changes in the use of online dating, as we've talked about in previous episodes. It's skyrocketing now, so this could be even more pronounced right now.
But there are social trends that are also hidden in this chart, which is actually interesting also. So I wanted you to take a look at the green dotted line. Um, you see that little bump. It was never actually the largest one at any point, but between 1980 and about the mid 90s, it was the number two way on how you met people, and that is meeting through coworkers. And we grew up in a generation where we were kids through that time frame, but this was the largest generation of quote latchkey kids that existed in American history, where parents took priorities in working between like the 80s and the mid 90s. There were a lot of kids who grew up where they would be home by themselves, anywhere between the ages of 10 and 18, where they would walk home alone. They would have a key. They would just unlock the door. There was nobody to pick them up or do anything. And parents would work. It was also not uncommon for parents to be single throughout this time. And they would then, have to balance work and family. So their dating lives actually revolved around their careers. And it got to the point in that time frame that in that time, like people who parents were dating at the time, they could have been parents, they could have been single, they could have been otherwise, but work was the number one priority, and it was affecting their dating lives to the point where it was almost the number two way that people met. So lots of social things that are happening in there too that I think the study ends up revealing a little bit. Yeah, it's a smaller sample size, but I find it very, very interesting on how that actually works. So,
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure you could probably trace a lot of things back to this and see parallels.
hmm
Uh, One thing that the actual researchers themselves made a point of as their main takeaway is that people are relying less on friends and family to make those initial introductions and those connections, right? And so I
hmm
thought, what might that mean, right? So to consider what the roles of family and friends are in the process of finding your partner. Uh, and I thought, okay, we could look at some of these from the positive points and the negative points and think about it that way. Um, so, one positive to this trend is that maybe your family doesn't know what you want. Maybe they think they know you, but they don't necessarily know you because you've been away from them through university, or you move to another city for work, whatever. But and their idea of what you want is different than what you want for yourself. So this trend is actually a good thing for you. Uh, Computers have a much farther reach than they used to, and they know more people than your parents could ever possibly know,
Yep.
or your friends could ever know. So going through the internet to connect people, your pool is much larger. So that's another benefit, another positive. You can turn on online dating off and on as you please. Right, your parents, you can't turn them off. They're going to be talking about why aren't you married yet and that kind of bullshit. But if you want to be dating, you can be dating. If you don't, pause your profile or delete it. You've got control over that. So there's another positive that you are more in control, and online dating is a better thing there. And you just have a lot more agency in that process. But on the other side, uh, some of the negatives that would come along with this, which might have been offset by having friends and family connect you, is you might be really shit at picking partners. Like you might just be really bad and you pick the wrong people over and over and over again. And your friends and family might do a better job of connecting you with someone who's good for you rather than who makes your parts tingle. Um, you might also be a liar. So you might be, and I don't, not in general, but just like when you made your profile, you might have made a profile that's not going to yield the best results for you. And you might have put things on there that actually set you up to fail in a way. by
Mm-hmm.
the people that are coming after you, or the people you're looking for. Uh, and then the other thing is that there's something to be said for working within like a deeper, more connected network, even if it is smaller. There's kind of more at stake, right? Your family is not going to set you up purposefully with someone who is going to destroy you, or someone who is going to move into the family and then mess up the family, or run away with the money or whatever. That's not. They only want the best for you. You would hope. Whereas swiping on Tinder, there's no one looking after you for that. For that, you could be getting anything. So, good friends who know you and know what your goals are in life could probably put you better together with someone who's on the same path, instead of just rolling the dice online. So, what I thought would be interesting is to, for us to kind of consider how we've met some of the women that we've dated, and compare that to some of the the graphs there.
Mm-hmm.
And we like you said, we grew up in the 80s and 90s, um, and so our dating life probably didn't start until what, mid 90s,
Mid
early mid
'90s.
90s, yeah.
Yeah. So mid '90s.
So
Mm-hmm.
according to the chart here, in the mid 90s, the internet was not the place for that.
No.
And I totally agree with that. The internet was only a good place to be perved on by,
Predators.
really freaks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, and then didn't really do the church thing.
Nope.
Neighbors were not helpful.
Oh, we know
Was
somebody who
not in
did the.
college in.
We know somebody who did the church thing. It was a certain cousin of
Yeah,
yours. Yeah.
yeah. But that didn't yield anything relationship wise.
No, that was a sign of
And I
desperation.
didn't date anyone from primary school. So like a lot of these things on here on the lower end, right? It wasn't working. And let's look at
Well,
as we move
secondary
up. Let's
school
see,
is high
because
school. You know that, right? So
yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah. So nobody you
yeah.
met in high. Oh, that's right. You didn't meet anybody in high school. That's right.
Not from my high school. But what I would say is like for me, and this is just sort of like between the age of 15 and 25, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
A number of them from school, a number of them from work situations,
Yep.
some through friends, but none at the bar. None. None, 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 none.
None. Yeah. Well,
Yeah. And
too
nothing
too
good from
early.
online dating.
Yeah, yeah. Too early for the bar. I'll go in order of girls that I dated. So first one was through family. She was the daughter of a family friend. Second one is not even on here, and that is at a convention. So I don't know what that would fall under. So I don't know
I
if
don't think that made it
that's
onto the charts here.
yeah, yes, anime cons in the mid '90s. Probably not on here. um, then one was through friends, so that completely, um, completely legitimate with regards to that time frame. And then later on in the later 2000s and stuff, I've met people online. So, I
Yeah.
myself have progressed towards the online dating, and absolutely it
You're
goes.
following the chart here.
Mhm.
And the thing is, what was capable, basically the speed of the internet has been the real motivating factor for the rise in the trend, right?
Yeah.
Back when the internet was just, beep, beep, boop, boop, sit on there for 20 minutes to get a single picture to load up. Like, you can't really get too excited about dating if you're just sending text to someone that you have no idea who they are. And, it just wasn't good. But by the time you get up to like T1 speeds, and you are moving into cable modems and things like that, uh, then you can share pictures, you can share video, you can get more in depth to the whole process, and people become more connected online, so you can create networks that are specific for dating, that can choose where you are in your locality and bring all that stuff together so it's easily accessible. So if the internet was stronger back in our younger years, we probably would have used it, honestly.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, honestly, I would say yeah. Yeah, I would be with you there. And you know what? The people who are the quickest adopters of technology are young people. So you saw what they were doing, especially early on when dating quote apps on their phones. The people who were using it, the adults who were using it later on, were probably behind their teenager who would have already been probably using it throughout their school. So, because all it needs to do is catch on with the right popular kid at some high school, and then all of a sudden, everybody's using it. And
Right.
teachers are playing whack-a-mole with regards to apps and all sorts of other things in schools. I mean, now there are hidden chat apps that teachers cannot find. It's all about encryption and trying to make sure that conversations are private. You've got sexting going on between kids in high schools and stuff like that, which is theoretically child porn, but they don't realize that, and all sorts of other crazy things. But yeah, I mean, kids are the early adopters, and then they take that same behavior and then basically use that later on in life, which is now how you get this explosion in online dating, because they were the ones who were literally open to it initially, found that it was very useful and easy to do, and as they've gotten older, they find that you know what, this is how I do it, and that's how I'm going to continue to doing it, and my
Yeah.
kids are doing the same thing now, and so forth and so forth and so forth. So
Yeah, and some of the stuff which I think should be noted and maybe considered in the research notes. The the online dating thing, while it is not the conventional way of a friend introducing you to a friend, it can be in a certain way. If you're going through Facebook and your friend on Facebook has a friend and you've connected that way, you use Facebook dating or whatever, like that is in a way using a friend network. It's
mhm.
not the way that they've described it in their study, but and meeting people through work, you can go to work situations like work get-togethers, meetups, things like that. LinkedIn also has connections there. Like there are other ways that it's sort of through work, but at the same time not. And people are using it. So if you're just strictly talking about Tinder or something where you have no connection to these people, that's one thing. But there are ways to use your social connections, even though they are digitized, to make those connections. So
Yep.
you know, if you can navigate all this craziness and get yourself out there and you'll be happy doing it, then wonderful. But there is something to the old school ways, and then I would tell people not to run from friends making suggestions or family members, because if they know you, maybe sometimes better than you know yourself, there might be some value to it.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Shall we tiptoe on to number 3 here?
yep, I think we shall. We're running a little late here, so you can talk about this one, because this one is interesting, because I have personal opinions on this, but it's about dating honesty. And the name of the topic here is I got a scathing review from my date. And I have opinions on this, and I wrote them down, and I think you can see them. But how about you read it off, and then we'll go through this, because yeah.
Okay, will
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
Taking it away. All right, so here we are on r/dating again. The username is Slapstick Thy Name. Pretty interesting. Their title: I got a scathing review of my dating game by a date. The thing is, she's right. So, our user says, we realized we're not really each other's types, personality wise, by date 3. Before that, there were lots of criticisms and issues she had with what I was doing. These include bullet point number 1: not taking the lead with everything, i.e., flirting and touching, leading the way on the actual date. She hated to lead even though we met in her city. This included her saying that that's why I'm online dating apps. We met on there. And why I haven't found a girl in person. She was on the app, but believes she's very different to everyone on there and has quit since. Okay, lady. The
Uh-huh.
second one, she said, and he says that she's right, that I'm not the type of person who would approach a girl in the open and flirt or ask someone out. She also said I would be the one who would flirt with any girl if she flirted with me first. She was annoyed that I didn't flirt with her on date number 2 and told me that a random guy, when he went off to the bathroom, flirted with her at that point and she liked it and she expected her date to do something similar when he was with her. So he says, it was obviously not going to work with this girl. Even though we had things in common, I found her really attractive. Sorry, wait. Even though we had things in common and I found her really attractive, I felt the vibe was way off. She was openly annoyed at me on the date because of all the above. However, she does make some true points, particularly, I guess, not being assertive whilst dating. She thinks that this is a personality thing and can't be fixed. I think it's confidence, but yes, my personality is more of the relaxed type instead of someone who wants to lead 100% of the time. How can I improve in the future and become more well-rounded? Okay, so sorry for like the tense switching there. Part of it I was talking about the guy, and part of it I was speaking from his point of view. But I think we get the main point here.
Yes.
Our little homie here. I mean, he achieved the impossible. He received feedback from his date, which is what everyone online swears that they want. They want to know where they did well, how they screwed up, and they want it to be delivered to them in a nice little package so that they can improve in the next date, which and almost never happens. But lucky for him, and not lucky in real life, he was brutalized and raked over the coals directly by her whilst on the third date. Just as I assumed, it was very heavy with the blame and not really at all indicative of any self-reflection on her part.
Oh, absolutely.
And this is not about, this is not like a woman thing. This is like a person who is going out on dates and just unwilling to look in the mirror and saying, you're what's wrong with it.
The word is she's a bitch, Tim. That is the word. And I'm not going to restrain myself with regards to this. This woman is terrible. I'm sorry, but you're right. There is no self-reflection there. The thing about getting feedback is that in this particular case, she was not helpful. This is not helpful feedback in a way that would be able to help him. What this is critiquing. She is basically saying everything that is, quote, wrong with him, but not offering helpful tips on how he can improve himself. This woman is just annoyed at this guy because of things that she, quote, thinks that he should be doing. She obviously has an overinflated ego with regards to herself and what she thinks she is deserving of. He actually plays into it by calling her, attractive and somebody that, and he's actually really nice in this. And it's like, well, I felt the vibe was way off. It's like, no, she was a complete bitch to you, dude. Like there is no way that it was in any way nice that she was actually trying to tell you stuff. She was not being helpful. And the thing about it is that in the end, at least what you're trying to do is say, hey, look, there were some couple things that I feel like maybe I should be doing. That's great and all. But this is the type of date in which I would be turning around and basically saying, well, if that's my problem, here are your problems, and you need to be able to deal with this also, because you're not going to find anybody that's going to be able to satisfy you in any possible way. And that would have probably ended the date right there, because this is the type of person that would probably not take criticism well either. So, honestly, in the end, yay for him for getting this, horrendous, quote, feedback. But at the same time, there are better places to look for this stuff. And the realization that maybe you can be a little bit more aggressive is great and all. But, man, like, he is probably lucky that he got away from her in the end.
I see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
I don't know I'd be so harsh with her, only because I feel like she had some expectations that just weren't met, and that she was salty about it, and she took it out on him. And, like, that's not okay. But at the same time, she's not wrong for wanting a guy that it takes the lead. And, like that can be totally her thing. And she's
But there's a
entitled to want that, but she's not entitled to meet someone who she doesn't really, make to order. She didn't, she didn't pick everything on a list and have it show up. She just got a guy and went on a date with her, and so it's not really cool of her to say, "Oh, you didn't turn out to be exactly what I wanted, so let me just rail you with all this."
but
Right?
there's a certain thing to it. Like, okay, your first date didn't necessarily go the right way, but if she had any inkling that this was a guy that she actually wanted to date, on date two, when she was explaining, like, hey, previously there are ways to go about to explain something that you want in a nice way, to basically point out, it's like, look, you weren't very forward. I don't know if that was because you were trying to be a little bit gentlemanly on the first date, but I like it when you're a little more flirty, and they're touching and leading the way and stuff like that. Explain it in a nice way. Explain what you want, but you don't have to be critical about it in a sense that it make it look like that this guy is a complete cuck. And the thing about it is that I think, that whole, you get more flies with honey sort of thing. If she had any intention of maybe continuing, or thinking that this is not exactly what I want, but let me see if I can explain it to him in a nice way that maybe that can change him, sort of deal. But the way that this has ended up going, like, she had no intention of that being it, and now he's basically reflecting on what has happened. So in the end, I think, though, he's been made to realize that there are certain things about his personality that I think may be a little passive, but not every girl is going to be like that. And I think he needs to understand more that there are other ways that, his dating game might be a little slow, or passive with regards to it. But if the person is actually going to try to want to date you in a way, they would explain some of the things in a little nicer manner, that maybe would then end up helping you in the long run.
You would
That's my
hope
thing.
so.
Yeah,
But I mean, maybe
yeah,
this is the new trend. This is
yeah.
like, oh, we're going to be really critical towards a complete stranger in this first early dates. And this is
Hmm.
just the harsh world we live in. But also, who the fuck are you? Like, why
Yeah.
do you get to do that to me? Uh, she was just, I don't know. Her main criticisms were like, one, he doesn't take the lead with everything. So that's cool. You have no responsibility for how the date goes, and this
Hmm.
is your city. That he came to your city to meet you, so there's no responsibility for you to be the one that says, "Hey, I know a great place here." To step up a little bit. And then the messed up part, like with following that, was that she was like, "That's why you're single." Like, she's not. I don't think she owns a mirror, dude. She is on online dating with him. They met
Yeah.
through it, so she's single too. Is she anti online dating, or is she just because she's not like other girls? I don't know, dude. That's confusing to me.
Yeah. Oh, well,
And then,
that's the thing.
go
It's
ahead.
like, she can't look herself in the mirror and say, you know what, you're in the same boat. It's like, I don't understand, like, how you can be so mean to somebody about the way, like, in a situation that you're both actually in. That, to me, that makes no sense. So that's
Yeah.
just my thing.
And
Yeah.
then also that he's not the confident guy, that he doesn't approach people in person, that she's like already like typecast him. This is just how you are and who you are. But, I don't know. Maybe she had this idea that she was getting something else and got pissed off that it wasn't him. But you know what? It takes two people to flirt, honestly. If it's a one way process, it's generally very awkward and falls apart. So if he's not giving her anything, she can do things to kind of draw something out. Like it can be a conversation in flirting, and generally when it's successful, it is. Uh, but then again, I start wondering what does she think flirting is, and what kind of attention is she going to demand from him? Does he have to be over the top for her to feel like she's getting it? This guy hits on her when her date goes to the bathroom, and she's all excited about that. Like, what do you want here? Do you want the attention of the guy you're on the date with, or do you just want people to pay attention to you? So
Yeah.
yeah, bro dodged a bullet. Uh, Anyone who thinks that going in on someone like that, they barely know that that's acceptable. You don't want to be with that kind of person. Um, I don't know. Z, if you were on first date, second date, whatever, and someone just like dumped their truth right on your lap and ripped you up like that, how would you handle that?
Well,
You said you just leave.
the thing about it is that it really depends on how they did it. Now, I am, you know me, I'm a very amicable person. The thing about it is I'm all about like tone and what you say and do with regards to it. If you are being critical yet being nice, it's like, hey, this isn't really going to work, but is there any way let me teach you or let me tell you a couple things that I think maybe help you in the long run, but it's probably just not going to work for us. And then I would actually be open to hearing it. I would be like, hey, look, like great, thank you so much for telling me. I'm sorry this is not going to work out between us, but saying it in a nice way would be nice. And then I would probably reciprocate the same way. The way that this guy got handled, though, I would probably be on the defensive with regards to this. I'd be like, bitch, you think I got problems? It's like, let me tell you something about you. And that's how I would handle it. The thing about it is everybody says they want to see how the sausage is made. But when they actually do, a lot of people don't necessarily like the reaction afterwards, because brutal honesty really is what it is. It's brutal. It makes you face certain things about yourself and your personality that you might not be ready at that moment to face head on, and it can be very, very difficult. Not everybody's going to be able to handle it properly. Luckily for him, I think he actually he did run to Reddit, but at the same time, it is one of those things in which it's like, yeah, did I do something wrong? And there's a sense of self doubt here, and what I would tell him is that, like, no, dude, you got stuck in a bad situation. Yeah, you might be a little passive with regards to stuff, but there are going to be ways to fix it. And I think he's the fact that he's actually willing to go out and experiment and date people is already a good step already. Then it just is a matter of how do you sort of hone that game of yours to hopefully find somebody that you like.
Yeah, man. He made the best out of the situation.
That's
You
correct.
know, he could have gone home and been hurt and just like ripped to shreds, but he's like, okay, I see what she was talking about. I recognize some of it, and then he comes ready. And he's like, what can I do to be a better rounded person? So like, at least he's got his head straight, and he's saying, well, we didn't match too well. I knew it wasn't going to happen. I hope he can see beyond that to say that anyone who's that harsh and hasn't given someone a chance to be themselves yet before going in on them and
Mm-hmm.
telling them who they are, that's just, that's an immediate red flag for me. That's, there's no next date for that.
Mm-hmm.
So, uh, how can we set this guy on the right path, like his next steps to becoming that more well-rounded dater?
That's a great question, Tim. And I would like to say that I would give him these three E's. And that is experience and experiment and entice. What I mean by that is experience. You have to go out there. You have to be able to experience the bad, which you just done, and possibly the good, to know what you want and know what you don't want with regards to people. That is step one. Knowing those things is going to be important with regards to sort of honing your game, because you have to know exactly what it is that you're aiming for. Two is experiment. You gotta work some moves. You gotta be able to see what works, what doesn't work, what is goofy, what isn't goofy. The availability, the possibility of being able to sort of laugh at yourself as you try some of these things. Your date might not enjoy them. Date might find them funny. Your date might find them ridiculous. But it's one of those things in which if you don't try certain things, you're never going to be able to do anything with regards to trying to find that special someone. And then the last one is entice. And what I mean by that is that you have to make yourself look good. And it really is about the first two in order for this to actually work. Because you know there are going to be moves that you're going to try to pull that are not going to work. But it is through your experience that some people actually love goofy guys. They like the stupid cheesy pickup lines, or they like the big crazy romantic gestures, things like that. You have to know via experience before you can actually entice a girl with regards to what it is that you want to do. So those, I think, are the three things that I think that he needs to do in order to basically up his game a little bit. And I call them Z's 3 E's: experience, and experiment, and entice. Those are the 3 E's that I think that'll help him get to the place that he wants to be, honestly.
I don't have any E's to give this guy, but I mean, I think he's already doing what he needs to be doing. To be well rounded, as he describes it, I think that he should start with his weak points.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's identified one already, which is some women out there might think that I am not taking the lead or being confident enough. So then part of that, part of that kind of experimenting and trying things out might be to be a little bit more assertive on your dates, to choose the restaurant, to, and not even be like, hey, we're going here, but, make a suggestion and follow it up with a reason why, so that you seem like you're not just forcing something, or you're not just throwing something out there, but that there's a reason for it. You say, oh, this restaurant just opened. I've heard great things about it. I happen to love this kind of food. Is this
Mm-hmm.
something you'd be interested in? And you don't lose any power by showing that you've considered her ideas or her feelings, but you also still have shown that you've taken the lead here and have done the research. And you can extend that to basically any part of your date. If you are prepared and you know what you're talking about, and you are, you're not, you never want to push someone outside of their comfort zone. But if you're walking, if she's decided that she's comfortable enough to walk with you somewhere, you could probably, reach your hand over and take a hold of her hand,
Mm-hmm.
because she's already out with you. She agreed to the date. She had dinner. It's like the night is going on. She's not ducked out and jumped into a taxi cab to escape you. So, you've got a decent chance that you're not going to get shut down. So that's what I'm saying. Just take little chances and build your confidence that way.
Yeah. And you know what? It is because we do live in an era of Me Too. It doesn't always hurt to ask sometimes, because guys get confused in this type of environment, and you know showing initiative is nice. But some people, when you grab a hand or touch or something like that, might be uncomfortable with it. Um, it is about you gauging the situation, of course. But if you are confused, it doesn't hurt to ask and be forward a little bit and say, "Hey, look, hey, I think you're very cute. I think you're um, very attractive. I was just want to see if I'm like, would you have any issues with me holding your hand here as we walk through this garden or something like that? In a way, going forward. If you are confused, as you don't know what's going on, and like they could say yes, if they say no, then you're absolutely not going to be doing something like that. But it is this type of environment that you do have to be careful sometimes, and you want to make sure that you're reading in things properly. Just a
Yeah, I
little,
think
yeah.
that probably is applied to a few steps ahead in
Yeah.
the evening. Uh, I don't know how many people have flipped out over hand holding, and if they have, it probably means you really stepped outside of the boundaries as far as just grabbing their hand out of nowhere, or they've given you plenty of signals to say, I don't want any physical contact with you at all, and then you do that. So like,
That's
read
exactly
the tea
right.
leaves a little bit, sense the temperature in the room, and you know make educated decisions.
Yep. Well,
Well, I think we basically set this guy straight. He's going
oh,
to be good to go.
hopefully. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I want to make sure that we cut this section up and then link it to him here in the chat, so therefore he can see our response with regards to this particular one. Because I hopefully, I really want him to succeed. After coming off this bad experience, because every guy goes through these things. And hopefully he's not going through a bit of a crisis of confidence, but hopefully the way that he's going about it and actually going out and dating people, it's a great thing that he's already on his way. So then it's all about honing his skills and doing things the right way. So yeah, good luck, my dude. Good luck in the dating world as everybody
Yeah.
tries to struggle through it.
Well, with that, I think we are at the end of our journey for the evening.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's been a fun one. I think the topics today have been very, very interesting, and hopefully you have found that interesting too. So, as always, thank you for watching us tonight. We're here every Wednesday. We start around 10 to 10:30 with regards to the start time, and we talk about topics on Reddit here usually on Wednesdays. We'll also answer emails if we have any, or things like that, topics that you would want to bring up, any comments, concerns, anything like that. As always, you can email us at our email address at twitchlinelove@gmail.com. You can also send us comments via Twitter. Our Twitter address is at Twitchline. You can look up Twitchline Relationship Help and Advice here on YouTube. You'll find this show archived there after this stream ends, and you can go back to it and watch it again if you want. Watch it as many times as you like. We have no issues with that at all. And you can also take us on the go. If you wanted to listen to this show, it'll be up on SoundCloud in a couple of days. Just make sure you go to Twitchline on SoundCloud, and you'll listen to some of our most recent shows there on that platform. But Tim, thank you so much for being my co-host today.
Yeah, man. Always a good time. Looking forward to the next round. And, I have a feeling that there'll be people that need help with dating between now and then. And we'll gather them up and we'll do it.
I think it's an eternal struggle that everybody has to go through, and we will be here for them. That is for sure. But that's going to do it for us tonight. Hopefully you found our show very entertaining. For Tim, I'm Z. Thanks so much for watching tonight, and we will see you next time.
Good night, everyone.